Hey, what's going on? You're here with E-Tech Millie, and what we got is we are going to be going over essentially best uh, practices when it comes to polishing home furniture. And I know the concept behind the furniture is if you can do the furniture, you can do the car. So that's really what we're doing. And it's really practice because if you know the car lovers that I be around, if you mess up their car or you do something, man, shoot, they'll be liable to kill you. I tell you that. So again, this is best practices for furniture buffering. All right. All right. So with that being said, we're gonna watch a few videos on it, and then after that, we're going to read a few articles. But I feel like some videos might be best for right now. Um, Go ahead and set that up.
Here's some quick tips about buffing out a polyurethane finish. This piece had 5.
All right, let's get to it.
Here's some quick tips about buffing out a polyurethane finish. This piece had 5 to 6 coats, and when I was done, it was black smooth.
Airports, hotels, restaurants are all coming back to life after many years of hardship. Simply put,
No, it's nowhere near what we're looking to talk about. So let's go ahead and get back to it. Give me 2 seconds to get that right. But yeah, long story short, we are going to be looking to polish and on a few dining tables and surfaces. So I'm looking at least two different ones, bare minimum, and then after that, yeah. So with that being said, let's figure out that part.
Because of the new war with Iran, diesel prices have completely skyrocketed. $4.69 per gallon.
Ooh.
And I am completely out of diesel, so I have no other choice. But I'm probably going to fill up a little bit and try to find any other cheaper places.
That's all we can do, baby. why you would want to remove the varnish. We're gonna figure that out. Alright, we ready now. One second. Un momento. Mm-hmm. Yes. All right.
I do so many furniture.
No, it's not going to be available for a while, especially with this weather. I'll come back in June. All right. Thank you. Bye. All right. So right now we are going to be looking at a few videos. One's going to be about the dangers of polishing furniture polish. And then after that, sanding down with sandpaper. Then varnish removal, as well as wood finishing. What is the best wood finishing to use? So let's go ahead and get into it.
Builders and repairmen caution against using furniture polish on wooden surfaces. One word: silicone. Most furniture polishes include some form of silicone. This is what creates the shine. It looks nice for a short time, but it builds up in rubbery, slippery layers. It also soaks through the finish and deep into the wood, especially the places where the finish is worn or chipped. This can make it difficult to restore or repair a finish. These finishes were applied on wood contaminated with furniture polish, and you can feel and see the problems it causes. So, what should you use? Paste wax. Natural waxes nourish and rejuvenate old wood. When properly applied, wax does not build up. A new application dissolves the old one. And it can be removed completely with mineral spirits or naphtha. Wax takes a little more elbow grease than furniture polish, but at least that grease won't contaminate your wood.
This person is removing varnish from old furnitures, and honestly, it's fascinating. You see, varnish is mostly used on wood, and it helps it from any impact, heat, and water. The best part is if you keep it in a good environment, it could literally last 100 years.
Grab yourself a good quality brush and prepare to
Microjig, maker of the gripper. Work safer, work smarter.
You'll probably want to protect most of your projects you make with a finish, but applying a wood finish doesn't have to be complicated. Let's look at the basics. To make things even easier on you, some projects may not require any finish at all. For example, there's no huge benefit to applying a finish to shop projects, say storage or tool cabinets or tables or workbenches. Of course, if you have a lot of visitors to your shop and you like to show off a beautiful workspace, then by all means spruce up your shop fixtures. I like to paint some of my shop cabinets because the bright colors just make me happy and brighten up my mood. Speaking of which, I believe paint is the strongest, most durable, most practical, easiest to apply finish there is. If it's long-term durability you want, go with paint. I mean, really, we use paint on our houses for a reason. It's because they're subjected to all kinds of harsh weather conditions. Plus, the choice of colors is unlimited. But of course, the main drawback to paint is that it hides the wood. And from my own experience on this show, that tends to make some people cranky. There are lots of great looking examples of painted furniture, and it really shouldn't be discounted as an option. But for this video, I'm only going to focus on clear protective top coats. There are two main reasons to apply finish to wood projects. First, wood finishes help to protect wood from scratches, moisture damage, spills, stains, and UV damage from sunlight. Secondly, a finish will make wood look great. It's very rewarding to watch the color and grain pop as soon as you apply a finish. Plus, a nicely finished piece is very tactile and it just feels nice. No matter what type of finish you use, it's important to sand your projects first. I usually start with a 120 grit sandpaper and then move up to a 220 grit sandpaper, and I stop there. There's rarely any reason to sand to any finer grit because the smooth feel of your surfaces will come from the finish that you apply. After sanding, make sure you remove all of the sawdust from your project. Dust particles are the bane of a good finish. I like to vacuum off the surfaces, then wipe them off with a tack cloth. Then, with a clean, lint-free cloth like an old t-shirt, I wipe everything down with mineral spirits or paint thinner. And this will also highlight any dents that are in the wood or any dried glue you may watch this basics video over here. With choices, there are a lot of ways you could finish wood. There are entire books on the subject of finishing. In this video, I'm only going to discuss a few of the most. First, a layered finish, one that sticks to the surface of the wood, kind of like paint does. This includes polyurethane, lacquer, and other varnishes. And secondly, an oil finish, one that penetrates into the grain of the wood, such as linseed oil or tung oil. In general, a layered finish will offer a lot more protection to the wood, but it can look a little artificial or in some cases kind of plasticky. Oil finishes, on the other hand, are kind of earthier. The wood looks great and more natural, but they don't offer nearly as much protection. Polyurethane is probably the most popular finish today. The biggest drawback is that it can be very time consuming to apply. To get a good finish, you need to apply at least 3 coats, which realistically might take 3 days. Applying any finish with a brush is different than painting. The goal is to avoid swiping back and forth and creating streaks or leaving behind air bubbles. It's a good idea to pour your finish into a separate container to use rather than straight out of the can. This will help prevent contaminating your main supply. I like to start by conditioning my brush and dipping it in mineral spirits and soaking the bristles. Dip the brush into the finish all the way up to the ferrule and let it soak up as much as it can. Lightly press the tip against the can to remove any excess that might drip. A good quality brush should hold quite a bit of finish. Start at one edge of the wood and try to apply the finish in one long stroke along the entire length of the board, pressing down more and more on the brush as you get to the end, letting it release the finish the entire way. Fill the brush up again and apply more, slightly overlapping the first stroke. Mostly avoid brushing back and forth as if you were painting a fence. Use long, steady strokes, trying to let the finish flow as easily covered. If you find that you've missed, worse. Also, it's a good idea to start with the edges and vertical surfaces of a project, then finish up with the top surface. Check the back of the can to see how much time you need to let it dry between coats. It could be 5 hours or more for an oil-based polyurethane and less time for water-based. Dry times will also differ based on temperature and humidity. Once each coat is dry, it should be lightly sanded with 320 grit sandpaper to remove any dust nibs and help smooth the surface. But don't drive yourself crazy trying to get every inch perfectly sanded. In my experience, polyurethane will adhere just fine to the previous layer even without sanding, but sanding will give the finish a smoother feel. And make sure you remove all of the sanding dust before applying the next coat. Pay extra special care to applying the final coat to avoid brush marks, runs, and streaks, and use a good quality brush. You can buy oil or water-based poly. Both provide excellent protection to wood and each has its own advantages and disadvantages. Water-based poly is a lot easier to use. It has less odor and cleanup is easy with just soap and water.
To clean up oil-based poly, you'll need mineral spirits. Water-based poly dries a lot faster than oil-based poly, but you'll need to apply more coats. Usually 3 coats is fine for oil, but water-based poly will need 4 or even more coats. But really the biggest difference in the two types is how they look on wood. I tend to prefer oil-based polyurethane because it gives the wood a warmer, somewhat amber look that most people find very pleasing. Water-based poly is really clear. Sometimes people complain that it looks like a plastic coating on wood. Finally, there's a third option called wipe-on poly, which is just regular polyurethane that the manufacturer has thinned down with mineral spirits. You can actually just make your own if you like. It's easy to apply, just pour some on a rag and wipe it on the wood. Wipe-on poly finish can look really great and sometimes even better than a brushed-on finish. Of course, you'll probably need to add more coats of it for good results. If you've watched my show for any length of time, you know that my favorite finish to use is lacquer. It looks great and it dries incredibly fast. With lacquer, you can finish an entire project in just a few hours, even faster for small projects. Almost all wood furniture that you might buy at a store is finished with lacquer. In industrial and professional production environments, it's always sprayed on with an HVLP sprayer. You can learn more about HVLP spraying here. Luckily, there are 2 easier options available for hobbyists and weekend woodworkers. The first is brushing lacquer. Apply it using the exact same brushing procedure I described for polyurethane. The only change in technique is to brush a little faster and definitely don't brush back and forth. Lacquer dries so quickly that it can gum up if you overwork it. Again, if you miss a spot, don't try to fix it. Just get it in the next coat. If you can, set up a backlight so that you can look across the surface as you apply the finish. That helps out a lot. The best part about lacquer is that you don't need to sand it between coats. Rather than sitting on top of each other, each coat fuses into the one beneath it, and this combination of fast drying and not having to sand allows you to build up lots of coats of lacquer in a very short time. You'll need lacquer thinner to clean your brushes, but I don't clean the brushes thoroughly between coats. I like to just wrap the brush in a paper towel or rag moistened with lacquer thinner and just put it in a plastic bag. I like to lightly sand the surface before applying the final coat of lacquer. This will knock down any little dust nibs or drips and make the top coat very smooth. Without question, lacquer from a spray can is my go-to finish. It's easy to apply. Just spray it on in a back and forth motion. It's an absolutely fantastic finish. You don't need any brushes or lacquer thinner. To learn more about my technique for getting a great 24 hours or so, I like to smooth out the top coat. To me, this is what separates a good finish from a great finish. One that is very tactile and feels smooth without any dust nibs or other imperfections. I almost always use gloss lacquer. To get an easy satin finish from that, I lightly sand the surface with 4/0 steel wool or a gray synthetic scrubbing pad. If you want, you can actually rub that finish to a super high gloss finish using finer and finer sandpaper and pumice, but that's a topic for another video. I usually limit it to just that one smoothing because I like the look and feel of a satin finish. Of course, you can buy satin lacquer, but you'll still need to rub down that final coat if you want it to have that great tactile feel. Gloss lacquer is just more versatile. Lacquer can be more expensive than other finishes, especially the spray cans. Secondly, lacquer has a very strong odor that can be really harmful to breathe, so use a respirator rated for organic vapors and solvent filtering. Lastly, some people complain about the look of lacquered finishes, saying they look too artificial. I don't share that opinion at all, and I love the look of lacquered pieces. When you want a beautiful finish that looks absolutely gorgeous and really shows off the wood, an oil finish is a great option. Plus, it's really the easiest finish to apply. But like I mentioned earlier, an oil finish doesn't offer much protection to wood. It would not be a good choice, say, for a dining table or a desk that's subjected to a lot of use. But an oil finish can be a good option for decorative pieces, say picture frames or jewelry boxes. Oil finishes are arguably the most natural looking, close to the wood, earthy ways to finish wood. There are basically two types of oil finishes, tung oil and linseed oil. They both penetrate into the wood, unlike lacquer or polyurethane that builds up on top of the wood. Applying either one is easy. You just pour some on a rag or directly on the wood surface and wipe it in. Let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes, then wipe it off. If I'm using linseed oil, I like to let it dry a couple of hours and then lightly sand the surface and apply a second coat. I've never seen any benefit to applying any more coats than 2. Let it dry overnight and you're good to go. Tung oil, on the other hand, can take days. Use the same wipe on, wipe off procedure as linseed oil, but let it dry 24 hours before sanding it and applying the next coat. Oil. So it might be a good choice for, say, an end table that doesn't get a whole lot of use. But if water resistance is your main concern, why bother with an oil finish at all? Just use poly or lacquer. A third alternative that I consider an oil finish is Danish oil, and it's actually a blend of polyurethane and tung or linseed oil. I think it tries to be the best of both worlds, and for the most part it does a pretty good job, but as you might expect, it doesn't look quite as natural as a pure oil finish, and it doesn't offer the protection of a layered finish. In fact, a lot of people apply a coat of straight polyurethane on top of the Danish oil for added protection. For the most part, finishing doesn't have to be a real chore, and for small projects, you can't go wrong with the simplicity of spray lacquer. Hey, I want to thank Casper for helping to make this video possible, and I hope you have fun watching this. And the sleep dragon just destroyed you. Oh, no fair. Just because you're DM doesn't give you right to play God. Oh, come on, it's past 11. We gotta get to bed. At least you have a bed. I gotta sleep on your old couch. There's just nothing like sleeping in my Casper mattress with its supportive memory foam. Oh, this is so uncomfortable. I sure am glad to have my obsessively engineered Casper mattress sold at a shockingly fair price. They really are sleeper things. This is like sleeping upside down. My Casper mattress has over 20,000 reviews and an average rating of 4.8 stars out of 5. But I'd give it 11. This is my spine. This is the couch. Hey Phil, instead of complaining, you should try out a Casper mattress free for 100 nights. And you can save $50 off your first mattress purchase by going to casper.com/WWMM and entering the promo code WWMM at checkout. Actually, I think I will, just as soon as... Phil? Well, there are lots of other types of finishes, such as shellac and finishing wax, and there are tons of different techniques for finishing wood. I hope this video has been helpful and is...
Well, yeah, I feel like it was a very helpful video. Let's go ahead and get back to it. So, again, the purpose behind this is we're eventually going to start buffering people's vehicles on a regular basis, but right now we are training on furniture, top restoration. So transform old furniture into modern masterpieces. That's the goal. So we're looking to learn how to restore, refinish in vinyl wrap furniture tops using professional techniques. This training is designed to help to build real skills that transfer directly into vehicle repairing and DIY improvement projects. So what we're intending to learn by doing the furniture is surface preparation techniques, sanding and repairing methods, vinyl wrapping fundamentals, edge wrapping and finishing, heat control and material behavior, avoiding bubbles, wrinkles, and lifting, professional level finishing techniques. And the materials that's going to be needed would be sandpaper, or 80, 120, or 220 grit, electrical sander, which is technically optional, but we're going to use it, a wood filler, cleaning cloth, alcohol 70% or higher, and I'm not going to be vinyling the furniture, but I am going to be I will vinyl a piece depending on, you know what I'm saying, like, but it's not going to be the pieces that we're going to be polishing. Right now it's more or less learning how to really polish just real good and real well, and it's not about the strength, it's not about so it's about the technique, it's about, you know, doing it correctly. And eventually we are going to be doing a wall, and I feel like painting is better than vinyl. I always like painting because painting, it shows you the true wall. Vinyl sometimes could hide certain things, but if there's a leak that's going on, I don't want the vinyl hiding it from me. Paint is normally better than vinyl, but we will be vinyling a wall. Squeegee and with the felt edge, that's going to be something that we're going to be needing when we do use the wall. Also, we have the heat gun, we have knives, razor blades, measuring tapes, and masking tape. That's something that we're going to have to get to. So yeah, we're going to be I'm going to be what you see behind me, we're going to make it that silver mine color. So all the stuff behind is going to be silver mine, and so it's going to be a lot of paint duty that's going to be going on. So that's what we got going on, and masking tape's going to be needed. But let's get back to finishing the furniture. So first step again will be to clean and prep. Second step will be to sand the surface. Third step will be to repair the damage, fill cracks or dents with wood filler, let it dry and sand smooth. The next one would be measuring and cutting the vinyl, and this is if you're planning on vinyling your top. If you not vinyling your top, you don't have to do this part. Whereas measuring and cutting the vinyl, and then applying the vinyl as far as the middle and working it out, will be trim access, so where the edges where you're supposed to trim it. And a lot of times the knifeless tape works great, so that way if you know that there's going to be edges somewhere, you could put the knifeless tape around it before you even start it, and then have it overlap, and even to the point where you bend it over. You kind of bend it over, and then you have to take the middle portion, which is like a line, and take the plastic part off, and you're like stripping it, and then at that point it just make it smooth. You just got to make it make sense. And so there's different ways to trim the excess, but that's one way you can do it, or you can use the blade. But you don't want to score the whatever surface that you're hitting, so you don't really want to mark it. Like, I guess you do want to score it, but you don't want to like scratch it. You don't want to scratch it at all. And depending on what blade, and if you're working with like glass or mirrors, it could really be detrimental. The last thing will be the final inspection, checking for bubbles, lifting, and or imperfections, and correct. So as you know, this Stanley used to be green, and it's this is the second one that I've chosen to do. So it doesn't look all that, but at the same time, I like the color, and then I need to redo the top, so I will be doing the top eventually, but not right now. All right. So, yeah, that's the process that we're going to be using. Just a couple things that could help. You work from the center outward. Use heat sparingly on flat surfaces, so you don't really want to burn the material. Stretch evenly to avoid distortion. Wrap edges fully to prevent peeling. And practice on small items before large surfaces. And that's essentially one thing that we're doing. I'm going to have to redo this one. Oh yeah, what am I Well, I need to add I had something I wanted to add to this, but I'll add it later. I need some more water. All right. So, what we're gonna be able to do after we're done with this is vehicle vinyling, wrapping, home and office upgrades, DIY improvement projects, professional wrap services. That's what we can do after we master, wrapping furniture. I mean, I'm not planning on wrapping the furniture, but I am planning on getting to the part where we're prepping, and then we're gonna prep for the vehicles, and I plan on wrapping vehicles. That's what I really plan on wrapping. But if there is a furniture that steps in the way, I will be wrapping it. Yeah. So what we're planning on doing, we're going to start with the furniture. We're going to move to the panels. And then we're going to master full vehicles. But before mastering full vehicles, that weather going to have to act different. Because with the weather acting the way it is, shoot, we're gonna have to just go ahead and relax. So real world skills that this could be an opportunity for. Automotive customization. So that means that if there's a shop that wants to do it, or a person or individual who wants to learn how to do it or do it for them. I go to a bunch of car shows, so at car shows I will be able to really showcase, hey, let me know if you want that car wrap. I'll be able to take care of it. Furniture restoration. That is something that people do, especially if it's like, this is my such and such. It's been in the family due to the heirloom. Normally, people have furniture and heirlooms. My brother has my mother's heirloom and everything. Another one would be a commercial wrapping service. That's one thing that we can do with the blue box. We get to a certain point. So I do plan on creating a brochure that's dedicated to just even polishing and finishing furniture, and I'm thinking that might be something that will be like 10 brochures at most that's going to be needed. I don't really perceive the need to have it all drawn out, because it's not like that's our main thing. But our main thing will be vehicle finishing. Vehicle wrapping. That'll be the bigger component. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and ride out. We are going to make it a point to get the tools, which we have the majority of them. Boom. We do have a few things. I might as well add painting in this thing too, because hey, let's face it, a good paint job for a vehicle is good too.